Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and welcome to you on this Monday. And we're going to have a Steeler afternoon football game. Oh, have you seen pictures of what that stadium looks like right now? There are, hundreds of people desperately trying to shovel the snow out of the seats, out of the stands, out of the entryways. I saw one, when you enter and come into the stadium itself, when you're going to your seats. It was just like the whole thing was totally snowbound. I understand that there were some people that are decrying the new wimpiness of the NFL for postponing the game, for not having the game as scheduled yesterday. Have you seen video of what that stadium looked like at 1:00 yesterday afternoon? There is no way anyone could have played a football game in that. And if they did, you wouldn't see it. It was a total whiteout. I don't know. So anyway, I have to say, you are listening to a woman who has not slept at all. I rarely do I throw in the towel like I did early this morning, but at 2:30 a.m., I just turned on the light, got out of bed, and started reading. And I kept thinking, maybe you'll get tired. Maybe you'll feel like sleeping. It never happened. So I can't, it's amazing how physically I feel okay. I think my head feels a little foggy. I am blaming all of this on another football game, which maybe you saw, and that was the improbable win of my hometown Green Bay Packers over the Dallas Cowboys. Win is not even the right noun. It was a rout. The 7th seed playing at the 2nd seed's venue, and I literally could not believe what I was seeing. And because that's the team that's been my first team, I was, woo! I could not stop looking at highlights. I could not stop looking at videos of the locker room afterwards. I could not stop reading everything that had been said. I even went so far as to enjoy the rage of Cowboy fans venting on social media. Wow. That was one for the ages. So I only wish that the Steelers do something similar today, because nobody picked the Packers and very few people are picking the Steelers. So I really, and when it comes, I like the Buffalo Bills. I've always liked that team and that franchise. So I don't hate them, but I have a healthy hatred of the Dallas Cowboys, and always have. From the Ice Bowl on, my gosh. The whole thing about them being called America's team, what bull. Both the Steelers and the Packers have more standing to have that nomenclature put on them. Tough working class cities, which is befitting of the game of football. Storied franchises. There's nothing storied about the Dallas Cowboys and their god-awful owner. Good Lord. Anyway, so there's that. And I literally could not, I guess I just couldn't come down. I couldn't come down enough to sleep. That game was over at what? Dinner time. And I wasn't able to come down. Oh, gosh. So I'm hoping to take a little nap before the second part of this doubleheader this afternoon. Okay. What else? And I'm sorry, I'm talking football, but that's what's been in my head now since yesterday afternoon. I'm thrilled for the Detroit Lions as well. I mean, I grew up with the Lions. We used to beat the Lions every Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving for me was the Packers. First, you'd watch the Packers and Lions play. And usually the Packers would lose. This is in the 50s. And I'm just so happy for the Lions because they have been, a pretty hapless franchise for a long time. And so it's great when cities and teams that haven't had that thrill get in. So, guys, it's Martin Luther King Day. Strangely, I have never had a job that honors that day. I mean, in that I get the day off. So to me, I always forget that it's not a holiday where, get off. And in fact, that's true, I think, of a lot of people for Martin Luther King Day. Unless you are a member of a union, I think the odds of getting MLK Day off are not great. So I was thinking, if Martin Luther King were here today, boy, we could use his voice now. But I don't know if you came across this really fascinating piece by Michele Norris in the Washington Post. She has put together a book that really has been in the making for, I think, decades. She started it back in 2010. And she printed up a bunch of postcards. And on the front of the cards was printed race, period. Your thoughts, period. 6 words, period. Please send, period. And what she did is everywhere she went, she'd have cards in her pocket. She'd put them out at, in stores she was visiting. She'd leave them behind in hotel lobbies. She'd leave them at the Starbucks. She just wanted to see. First of all, she wasn't expecting a lot to come back, but she wondered if people would condense their feeling about race into 6 words and what that would look like. Well, she was inundated. And she ended up, obviously, putting out a heck of a lot more, and then social media took over. when it came into play. And she ended up receiving more than 500,000 of 6-word responses. The race. And they're fascinating because they come from all kinds of people, from all kinds of people who are different racial categories. Some are even questions. And let me share a few with you. They are just, incredible fodder for thought. I'm only Asian when it's convenient. Too black for black men's love. Urban living has made me racist. Gay, but at least I'm white. And some of them just blow your mind. One, which I felt was just brilliant. I think, and I can't find it I didn't highlight it. This is what I think it was. Hate passed down like an heirloom. There it is. There it is. I think that is just brilliant. Hate passed down like an heirloom. And then there was this one that really got me thinking. It was obviously from a black woman, because she said, we aren't all black women. I thought, wow. Because that's something I've fallen for. I look at black women as just inherently strong as hell. I mean, I've seen them be strong as hell. But there's also this thing out there that you're a black woman, you're strong as hell. And that got a lot of people talking. One woman saying, I feel like I'm forced to be strong. It makes me sound like a weed, not a flower. Strong like oxen, less than human. Really incredible stuff. And all the same on the inside. Here's one: white man vilified. What did I do? You're Asian. Why aren't you smart? Don't judge me on your past. The thing is I'm tired of being the exception. Yeah. Here's one that sort of wonderful. The panda, black and white and Asian. And we have never as a nation come to terms with it. And nor do I think we will. I mean, look where we are right now on this day. Look what we did to this man who we honor today. I was reading an obituary, actually, of a guy named Elmore Nickelberry. He died at the age of 92. He was a sanitation worker in Memphis. He was one of the sanitation workers. Martin Luther King went to Memphis to support. And Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis. 4 days before, he was to have led a massive march in support of the sanitation workers. And it was his assassination that forced a partial reckoning, at least in that city. And the strike was ended because the strikers got what they wanted. Mr. Nickelberry remembers we got a good raise, 15 cents per hour raise. We got showers. We got better working conditions. We got health benefits. He said, I just want to leave you with his words. I'm looking at a picture of him holding up a sign saying, I am a man. He was one of 1,300 sanitation workers who walked off. It was an overt strike. And their victory would not have occurred but with Martin Luther King's sacrifice. Mr. Nickelberry said everybody called us boy. Supervisors called us boy. You'd tell them, I ain't no boy, I'm a man, and they'd keep calling you boy. They talked about how it's just appalling. It's just appalling. He served in the Korean War, rising to the rank of corporal, and then he came back to the United States of America, for which he had risked his life, and he was treated like dirt. He said they treated me better overseas than I was treated in Memphis. God knows how many American servicemen have said that. And Jim Crow laws made it so difficult for this returning veteran to find any work, he ended up joining the sanitation department, starting at 75 cents an hour. Elmore Nickelberry. He didn't retire until 2018 at the age of 86, making him the longest serving municipal employee. I'm sorry. What is going on? Do I have a caller talking in my ear? Oh, okay. I guess not. I don't know. This man, Nickelberry, worked till he was 86, making him the longest serving municipal employee in Memphis history. He held off retiring until Memphis had reached a settlement with him and 13 of the other surviving strikers, giving them $50,000 each to compensate them for their meager retirement benefits. A fighter, a principled man, Elmore Nickelberry. So Michele Norris says, more than a dozen years of listening to people unburden themselves about race has left me with a clearer sense of the burden passed on to the next generation. The idea that the young people will collectively produce some magical balm that heals the nation is flawed. It will not be easy for successive generations to shed all the coded, sticky, embedded, underlying racialized gunk they've inherited. We adults should know that, because we are still choking on the racialized smog that has hung in the air since we ourselves were kids. Instead of telling young people that racism is something that can be fixed or easily eradicated on their watch, perhaps we should be sending a different message. It is quite possible that some form of racism and bias will always be with us. That bias doesn't go away, but instead mutates, much like virus. It is quite likely that racism, bias, prejudice will continue to present in different ways and different forms and different platforms and with changing targets. But believing that these forces will altogether disappear over some distant cliff is a bit like believing that the world is flat. So what are my 6 words? Still more work to be done. I wish I knew the title of this book. there she's got it. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Our Hidden Conversations. What Americans really think about race and identity. It is due to be published tomorrow. So, hot off the press, hot off the presses. Michele Norris, Our Hidden Conversations. Oh, I have to tell you something funny. Yes. See, this is where the brain fog. I have to tell you something funny. Duh. What would that have been? I got 2 emails from 2 of you about, I just realized I sort of was recommending this book, to you. And it has to do with a recommendation I made and what resulted. Some of you may have heard the show in which I recommended a documentary called Make Me Famous. It was playing at, I'm blanking on the theater's name, in McKees Rocks. And it had lots of really good reviews. I saw it because it was sent to me as a, review copy. So I was able to watch it without going to McKees Rocks. And I did, and I found it interesting. And I realized it would be very interesting to people who really are aficionados of the art world, the American modern art world. And so I said something about it, as much to feel that I hadn't been, I felt guilty at having been given this to see. If I didn't do, I always feel it was transactional, that I should give them a little publicity. So that's what I did. Well, the first thing by the time I talked about it, there were only 3 showings left. I think it was on a Wednesday that I talked about it. There was 1 showing that night. And then on the Thursday, there were to be 2 showings, 7 and 9. So I put all that information out there. And I got an email from one of you who he felt her daughter would be very interested in this documentary. And so she wrote me to say that her daughter had, in fact, gone out to McKees Rocks to see this documentary that her mother heard Lynn Cullen say she should go see. And she was the only person. Hello? I don't know what happened. Yeah. I just dropped out. I didn't do anything. I swear to God. Sometimes I do, but I didn't. Here I am back again. So I was about to tell you the second part of the story. So I did receive another email this weekend from a gentleman who said that on my recommendation, he and his wife went off to McKees Rocks for the early Thursday showing. And he wanted me to know that no one was there. He said we were the only people in attendance, and it didn't look like anyone was lined up to see it at 9 either. Don't you people like documentaries? They're my favorite. He says he and his wife have had this kind of situation before, and they were documentaries where they'd gone to the Tull Theater. Is it still the Tull? It's been changed. The name has been changed. In Sewickley to see documentaries. Oh, it's now the Lindsay. Don't ask me. And they were the only ones. So, I'm glad so private showings all around. I watched it by myself. And all of you who followed my advice also watched it by yourselves. So, oh my God. So I guess the big news is there's these stupid Iowa caucuses today. And I just want to put it in perspective, or at least rip off Charlie Sykes, who puts it in perspective. He says, let's see. He talks about how there's all these reporters, the pundits, everybody, they're all there waiting eagerly to see what these, frozen Iowa Republicans are going to do this evening, even though everybody seems to know already. And he's saying, of course, this is really important, isn't it? This, you might snicker at the Iowa caucus, but as he says, this is the process that propelled Mike Huckabee, Pat Robertson, Rick Santorum, and Ted Cruz to the presidency. Oh, wait. Yeah, just want to remind you of who these Iowa Republicans have voted for in the past. And let's hope they keep up this record. Okay? Let's hope they keep it up. And they vote for another loser. Well, we know he's the loser. They vote for another loser tonight. And we can add Trump to the list. Pat Robertson, Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, and Ted Cruz. Man. So this is hardly a bellwether, guys. Nonsense. And keep it in mind. And then after tonight, the pundits start, as he says, meager bones coming out of tonight's caucus will be chewed over endlessly and spun with exquisite cleverness and creativity. God, it's nonsense. We're supposed to listen to more than 6 in 10 of these Republican voters in Iowa say it doesn't matter to them one whit that Donald Trump could be convicted of a crime before the general election. Doesn't bother them. He's their man. Really something. So, it does. It makes you nervous, which is why I decided to get into football. So, who did I say? Excuse me, while I babble. I'm looking for not. Excuse me. I'm trying to work my phone. Boy, did that sound Wisconsin-y. My phone. I'm trying to work my phone. Here, I was just going to get something here. There we have it. So Robert Reich says, in separate legal rulings, Trump has been found to have committed rape, to have committed business fraud, and insurrection. And yet he remains the Republicans' presidential front runner. Don't ever tell me that the GOP is the party of family values or of law and order. Well, we know this. We know this. But it is breathtaking to see a party capitulate and be totally taken over in such a short period of time. And you wonder what the hell that will mean. It's nothing good. It can't be good. What do you think of this? I read this. The City Council of Newark, New Jersey, has granted the right to vote in school board elections to residents as young as 16. This is the first time the voting age has been dropped like this. And tell me what you think. I mean, it's not for, they can't vote for anything but they can vote for the people who will have an immediate impact on their schooling. So that 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds will be able to vote. I don't know how I feel about it. There's already, anybody who suggests that a 16-year-old is inherently incapable of casting an intelligent vote is going to have to answer, then why is it okay for 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80-year-olds to cast uninformed and stupid votes? Age in and of itself is not an indicator of competency. Jeez. Hey, I saw something. Have any of you seen this? Because I wasn't in a position to read it. I was in my car and I was at a stoplight, and it was in Squirrel Hill. This was yesterday. And I saw that there was, a tacked up sign on, a telephone pole. And, I hate those things because there are always these pictures of cats and dogs that are now missing and God knows what. And it breaks your heart. But here's the thing. It wasn't it was a picture, but it wasn't a picture of a dog, and it wasn't a picture of a cat. What I saw was a picture of a baby. And it said, not missing, it said kidnapped. What? Now, those of you who maybe watch local news, have you seen anything about that? Or is it some kind of a way to get attention? And if you do read closer, it's has nothing really to do with a kidnapped baby. If it weren't so damn cold out, I'd walk down there and drive over, I guess, and then get out of the car and check it out. It's just mind-boggling. By the way, Margaret writes, my company acknowledges and pays us for Martin Luther King Day, and we are not unionized. So much for me. Okay, good. Glad to hear it. Oh, speaking of family values and the Republicans, this from The Week magazine. I really should keep up on her more just for comedy's sake. The ex-husband of Representative Lauren Boebert was arrested on charges of misdemeanor assault and criminal mischief this week, just days after he accused her of punching him in the face at a Colorado restaurant. What fine people. I mean, what truly. I mean, I can't imagine how proud the constituents of her district must feel. And she's changing districts, you know that. Yeah, she's found a district where she has a shot of winning, or they don't quite know her quite as well, or they're all, shouldn't be able to vote because they cast votes for people like her. Says here that Jason Boebert, 43 years old, reportedly called the police, claiming he'd been a victim of domestic violence. The congresswoman, age 37, who divorced this guy last year, vigorously denied having punched him. And she told police that she merely pushed him after he initiated a confrontation. He was arrested on a whole separate thing over the weekend for a separate assault involving his 18-year-old son, Boebert. He apparently started hitting the kid after coming home late from a bar, and then he picked up a rifle when his son started calling 911. Well, the Boeberts, ladies and gentlemen, a fine American family. Yeah. God almighty. Hey, did you see what's going on in Iceland? God almighty. Can you imagine? I mean, you're told evacuate, get the hell out, because this, unbelievable fiery lava is coming at you. And it's just taken the houses in that little town that's probably managed to avoid this for a long time. But after a while, things tend to build up and explode. Speaking of building up and exploding, one of the things I read last night when I couldn't sleep was something from the New York Times Sunday magazine about why Americans are terrible drivers and are are becoming very dangerous drivers. I've talked before about it's so obvious that something has changed in just the last few years of people not obeying the traffic rules at all. People blow through red lights. No, they definitely go through all yellow lights. And red lights, it's dangerous. It's more dangerous out there than I've ever seen it. And I'm an old lady. And my sort of anecdotal impression is corroborated by actual researchers, looking at the stats. There are lots of problems. Our roads are not in good condition. They can be badly lit, yada, yada, yada. But the problem is us. And they quote, a bunch of police folks who have to deal with the results of all this bad driving as saying it is no exaggeration to say that the behavior on the road today is the worst I've ever seen. So, yeah. And, I mean, we all know that. That stretch, like when you're heading to the Fern Hollow Bridge, that stretch where you drive through Frick Park on Forbes, for those of you who know the area, that has the laughable designation of a 25 mile per hour speed limit. That's ridiculous. It is, because first of all, it's 4 lanes. There's even safe places for the bikers and the walkers and everything that have barriers between them and the cars. There's no reason for that to be 25 miles per hour. So when you post those kinds of speed limits that nobody is going to follow, you help breed this kind of, just people pay no attention. They set the speed limit. I did go 25 the other day when I was driving through just to see. Oh my God. I know I was annoying the guy behind me. He finally pulled around and zipped by me. The average speed on that stretch of road is 45 miles per hour. It's 20 miles over the speed limit. The U.S. Department of Transportation under Pete Buttigieg has said that what's going on now on our roads is a genuine public health crisis on the level of suicide and cancer and heart disease. It's killing tens of thousands of people and maiming others. Now, leave it to the American Psychological Association to come up with a bit of a reason. They say it's the psychological impacts of collective trauma, that Americans are collectively traumatized right now. They're traumatized because of the pandemic. They're traumatized because of global conflicts, racism, climate disasters, inflation, you name it. Most Americans are feeling extraordinarily stressed out. And a guy who is an expert in anger says all of those emotions that Americans are feeling have to go somewhere and have to come out. And for a lot of us, our cars. And, I needn't, if you drive, I needn't tell you. 2021, 43,000 Americans died in car crashes That is way, 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 way up. And the thing about driving, in which you're taught the first time you take a driver's ed class, is it's not just you. You can be, following the rules, but there's other cars on the road. And so it's dangerous even if you are a great, careful driver. You're surrounded by a lot of people who aren't. You're surrounded by a lot of people who are angry and stressed. Aggressive driving is one of the ways you can tell if somebody is angered. And then the other thing is they're texting. I mean, you've been behind a car, right, where you can tell you can tell whoever's driving it is texting because they're not keeping up a regular speed. They're drifting across the lines. They are erratic. They are a danger. And studies have shown that kind of distracted driving increases the risk of you being in a crash as much as alcohol, as much as being drunk. The thing is, again, people who are driving like that, distractedly or drunkenly or high as a kite or, too busy playing with all the gizmos in the car, they are a danger to themselves and to others. And then there's something that hadn't happened for a long time, and we've seen it here. This illegal street racing. There are a number of incidents that got on the local news here of these, crazy kids doing donuts on the Fort Pitt Bridge and stuff like that, right? One police captain, I think in Florida, says it's not just the kids. We arrested a female driver, a mom in a minivan doing donuts on the road. God help us. I'm just saying. God help us. Now, I do tend to be a bit of an aggressive driver myself, but not in the way that, I don't tailgate. I so hate it when somebody's doing it to me. I do not do that. But I'm aggressive in the quiet of my own car. Saying things about the person in front of me. I do get annoyed when people. It seems to me if you're the person who's first in line at a stoplight, that you have the responsibility to be paying attention, right, when the light changes, because there are other people behind you. And I feel that strongly. If I know I'm in first, so I better watch. And that's just doing the right thing. And geez, so many people don't bother. Or they're making a turn and they don't bother, and that also impedes traffic flow. I don't know. We are a nation that is not given, we don't have a culture that values thinking of oneself as a little part of a much bigger whole. And there's a reason then, I guess, that we're going to be dying on the roads. But I really am more fearful driving than I've ever been, because I know there are so many impaired, and enraged people on the road with me. So, what else do I have here? Oh, I'm just gonna. Here's what. No, sorry. Here's something. This isn't a complaint, but it's also a heads up, and I should really write to WPXI about this. They have a promo. The reason I know what WPXI is up to is because I watch Jeopardy sometimes, not as much as I used to, but so that puts me on that channel. Or if I turn on the TV, it can be on that channel. So they have a promo, and a news promo, in which they have little snippets of various reporters saying things like, and here and blah, 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 and here and this and that, showing they're all over the place. They're covering everything, not to worry, they got it covered, right? But there is, in one of these constantly running promos, there is a reporter who says, we're following a shooting in Penn Hills. That's all she says. And when I first heard it, you can't tell if in fact that is, if you don't know it's a promo, you think there's a shooting in Penn Hills. And the fact that I hear we're following a shooting in Penn Hills over and over and over again, you know what that does? If I were the mayor of Penn Hills or a resident of Penn Hills, I would call PXI and say, hey, you are constantly telling people there's a shooting in Penn Hills. That has an impact on how people view that community. If you were to ask, so what do you think of Penn Hills? Is Penn Hills a great place to live? Well, I don't know. They have a lot of shootings there. Every time I turn on my TV, there's a shooting in Penn Hills. And understanding how people take in that kind of repetition and the impact it has, I really think it is unfair. If you want to do these things, showing your people are all over the place, then think about the impact that you're having on communities that you seem to be tagging as places of violence. Do you think they'd have one saying, there's a shooting in Upper St. Clair? You think that would ever make the reel? I don't think so. Even though there was very recently. And it was cops shooting somebody dead. A mentally ill person. A shooting in Penn Hills. I got to tell you, there's at least 20 a day if you watch WPXI. Somebody tell them to cease and desist. Okay, that's it for me. I'm out of here. Golly, I hope I can take a nap for the Steeler game. Go Steelers. Very nervous about this name, but go Steelers. Okay. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.